Our sponsors today for the food is funded by our LastCon conference, and facilities is from National Instruments. Thank you, National Instruments. Chapter leadership, just have a list of all of us here, and I'm the chapter leader. We have Kate, speaker and special event coordinator. Not sure if Matt Snyder's here. He is, okay. Matt Pardo, though, right? Yes. Logan Bankham may not be here. Yes, Matt Pardo, our education coordinator. He's going to speak on an upcoming training event here shortly. Kyle, David, James, and Josh are our advisory board members. If you're wanting to get a CPE hour out of this, just please let me know. I haven't had it set up where it would just automatically send out to everybody, so I would just create a certificate for you. So just get with me afterwards or email me. We have a study group going on right now. It is on basic security testing with Kali Linux 2. And Matt Pardo is leading that, and it's actually here in National Instruments in Building A on every Thursday. If you have more questions, you can talk to Matt Pardo. Memberships, there's several memberships, and it is encouraged but not required to attend these events. So we more of supporting the organization. Volunteer opportunities. We are a volunteer chapter and organization, so if you're interested, and talk to one of the chapter leaders, and we could talk more about what things you might be able to do to help out. Also, if you shop on Amazon, if you use the smile.amazon.com, there, and you can select OWASP as the organization, there is a portion of that goes towards the foundation. Upcoming events. We have our Awesome Security Professionals Happy Hour that is going to come up in July 14th at Sherlock's. Sponsor's going to be Technology Navigators. And Matt Pardo, where's he at? Is he still out there? I may just have him talk a little bit about it here shortly. I don't know if anybody can go get him. Oh, there's Matt. Hi, Matt. Do you want to talk a little bit about the upcoming training?
It's going to be free, thankfully, to NI and the instructor. So the first day will be learning the basics. It'll be learning how to look at the flow of a program, some assembly stuff. And then the second day is going to be all about reverse engineering. So it should be very good. Because the guy who's flying in to teach it is from Akami. He's worked on like catching botnets and stuff like that. And I'm hoping that this is a start of a series that'll lead to other things like binary exploitation or vulnerability research. Anyway, there's some handouts over on the table with the sign-up link. There is limited seating, so if you want to attend, please sign up as soon as possible. I will also be starting a very short-term, like 1-month study group for this training. So it's going to be all about assembly language. So if you want to get like a little primer right beforehand, let me know that too. And it's also on that sheet.
Thank you. And then conferences upcoming is just save the date for Norris conferences, LastCon 2016. It's going to be at Norris Conference Center. Yes, Kate. Oh, yeah. Yes. Call for papers is now open, so please visit the website. And if you're interested in doing a talk or providing one of the sessions, please submit your paper for that. Other upcoming local events, I just have them listed here. I won't need to read them all out. At this time, though, I'd also like to ask if anybody with other organizations would like to have any announcements, as well as if there's any job openings they may have. Or does anybody?
Hey, everybody. Hackformers is going to be meeting July 8th. That's not this Friday, but next Friday. Hackformers, we're going to have Jason Evans come speak. He's from Optiv, Accubant, Fishnet, merge company. And Hackformers, some of you all have heard about it. It's Teach Security, Teach Christ, Teach Security in Christ. It's free and it's open to everybody. Same format as this. We meet at Microsoft North Austin. That's hackformers.org. And also, changing the subject, job openings. Denim Group is hiring. If you're interested in application security and you want to do consultancy in that area, we have openings in San Antonio and Austin. So let me know or check our website. Thanks.
Thank you, Austin.
So for those who don't know, I'm Josh. I'm on the OWASP Global Board of Directors. I serve as Vice Chair currently. One of the things I wanted to mention to everybody here is that the elections are coming up for the OWASP Board of Directors. Now, I'm not up for election, so you don't have to worry about that. But what I did want to put out there is if anybody in this room is interested in getting involved in OWASP on a higher level, talking about the ramifications across the world, about our projects and things like that, this would be a great opportunity for you. The process is open. You can go to OWASP.org and there's links to basically nominate yourself and tell them why you want to be a member of the board of directors. But it's a really good opportunity to kind of get involved in application security on that global level if that's something that you're interested in. So I just want to throw that out there. If you have questions about what it entails, what it's like to be a board member, feel free to reach out to me. But there you go.
Thanks, Josh. And then also more information on our chapter, you can go to austin.owasp.org and you can find more information there. And now for our presentation, Kate, make the introduction.
Thanks to the United Airlines gods, our speaker was able to make it here today. Igor Matlin joins us. He's from Checkmark. He's the Director of Sales Engineering, and he's got 19 years of high-tech and software engineering and technical leadership, speaker at ISC2, B-Sides, and, of course, OWASP. And we're going to play a game. So this should be really, really fun. And it's going to be interactive, and hopefully you can get on the Wi-Fi and we can all play this game. I can't play, though, because I've already had a preview, so I kind of know the question.
No, this is fine. All right. How's everybody doing? Hear me? Oh. Well, we are going to play the game. You can use your phone. You can use your laptop, tablet, whatever you want. But please join. It's more fun when there are more participants, right? You don't have to be on Wi-Fi. That's really not very data-intensive game. Just sort of a trivia. You have to pick an answer, right, from multiple choice. All right. I think I need to switch to my presentation, right? Okay. So game of hacks. The topic of today's discussion is Game of Hacks. It's a website that we've created, sort of part of the developer education of application security. So we're going to demo it a little bit. We're going to play a game that has application security questions. So hopefully most of you know what those questions will be about. I guarantee that some of the questions, you'll get some of the questions right. Everybody will. We're going to talk about the origins of that game, of the website, and what we try to do there. We're going to have a contest. The game is a contest. Don't worry, you're not going to see me in a wet T-shirt, unless I spill some of this water on me. But typically, when we do this, we have some prizes to give out. Unfortunately, I don't have any on me. But IOUs, yeah, I'm going to give out IOUs, like a T-shirt like this one, something that developers really, 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 really appreciate. Even sometimes, I think, more than free food. Like, I think it's free beer, free T-shirts, free food, right? So, how did we come up with the idea, game of hacks. It wasn't me. Some of my colleagues were at AppSec actually a year and a half ago, roughly, and they ran into a group of people who were standing at a whiteboard, staring at a whiteboard, essentially. And when they came a bit closer, turned out that the whiteboard had code on it, and the participants were invited to spot a vulnerability code. Oh, actually kind of intriguing because our company does just that, right? It looks at the code and finds vulnerabilities in the code. But at the same conference, an interesting survey came out that the top of one of the priority, well, actually the top priority for CISOs is security awareness by developers, security awareness and training by developers. Right? I don't know about you guys, but when I went to school a few years ago, we didn't really have anything on application security, right? We were taught to do different things, algorithms, the database lookups. There was nothing about application security in my curriculum. Things are slowly changing, but not really fast enough. And so there's a lot of developers out there who don't have formal training in application security or even informal training in application security. So the challenges for CISOs are basically low level of application security training. So put two and two together, one and one together, I'm not sure what that is. We came up with a game that essentially presents you with some code snippets and ask questions to ask you to spot a vulnerability in a code snippet. The game is timed, right? So the quicker you answer, the more points you get, right? It's like every other trivia game. And we introduced it almost 2 years ago. It was a big hit at Black Hat, right, in Vegas. We got lots of participation. People would stop by the booth and talk to us about it. We had these T-shirts. It was great, but the game was actually attacked quite quickly. Right? And we knew that, so we planted some honeypots in that. So we're going to talk today about what those were and maybe help you avoid making the same mistakes, whether willingly or unwillingly. So take a look at the game. I had it in somewhere. Okay, here it is. All right, so it's option to play as a single player or play with friends. It's awesome, right? Friday night in a bar. That's what I hope every one of you will do this week. But we're going to do single player today. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right, so what's the vulnerability in this code snippet? Let's see. I think this might be Visual Basic. So that's right up my alley. Some of you probably don't know that language existed, or maybe have heard of it. So, what do you think? Anybody? Okay, let's try. You're right? It's a denial of service because the user input is used as a parameter to the sleep function. So if I put quadruple gazillion milliseconds, well, your application will sleep forever. All right, so we're not going to play next question, which is going to go back to the presentation, because we have more questions coming up during the game. Now, so what else was behind this game of hacks? I mean, it's a great website, actually. So I do encourage you to look at it, play it. Maybe introduce it to your colleagues and your team. There's nothing, we don't get anything out of it other than these speaking engagements. So we planted some honeypots in there, right? We assumed that the game would be hacked. We actually, it was one of the first applications we did in node.js. We wanted to learn about node.js, about real-life exploits that actually hackers everywhere use against node.js applications. So we left some vulnerabilities in, but also we found that some of the hacks and exploits were completely unexpected. So that was quite a shocking experience, I think, to our application security team, really. Pretty simple architecture, right? It's a hosted app, hosted by Heroku, app server, a platform as a service. It's a Node.js server, right? It has a MongoDB as a backend. It's got a Express.js client. Pretty easy, I think. The application like that you can really write in just maybe a couple hours, couple weekends. Anyway. Yeah. There's a level. You can pick the level of questions. It's a code snippet, timer, right? You get 60 seconds to answer every question. The sooner you answer, the more points you get. Right? Here's your choices. Again, pretty simple, minimalistic design stuff. So, what happened, right? So the first version of the game, just send the answer to the server. Server would record it. If you send another answer for the same question, the server would just basically take it. Well, it didn't work very well because somebody figured out how to just submit multiple answers, and the correct one would be recorded by the server. So these are quotes from some hacker boards that talked about hacking our baby. So we had to go back and quickly change the server so that only one answer was properly was being recorded. The first answer, you can't really go back and change it. The next problem was the timer, right? You get more points if you answer quicker, right? So the first version kept the timer on the client, right? You get the answer, JavaScript calculates the difference between the time you click on the load time and the time you click on the answer, and the client basically sends back this time difference. Well, that didn't go over well either because JavaScript, as you know, in the client, very easy to modify and run with anything you want. So send answer, question number 1, time is negative, which translates into some really, really high score. So, again, these are some hacker exchange quotes. All right, we'll get to kind of lessons learned at the end, but just kind of fun to see top leaderboard with basically max int for this high score. So what we did is we moved a timer to the server, right? You send a question, you wait for the response. There's a latency, right? But it certainly did not affect the game all that much, right? There's not a whole lot of information being transmitted. The ping delay maybe 28 milliseconds or 58 milliseconds. Not that important. What else? So another timer hack was completely unexpected. And turns out that, well, back when the timer was calculated on the client, if you hold down something, I guess stop sending events, stop counting time. I don't know. Who would have thought, right? So yeah, so you kind of hold your thumb down on your screen and wait for until you figure out the answer. Maybe Google it, and then you let it go and answer. That was pretty cool. That one you really can't deal with, right? But same approach. You calculate timer and move timer to the server, but nothing you can do programmatically in the client to deal with it. Okay, so this is the part. This is the fun part, right? Before I was speaking, right? Now is the fun part. I'm gonna go to Kahoot. I'm gonna prepare a code for everybody to enter. Here's some code while everybody's joining. These are web codes. If you ever wonder what web code is all about, it's web code. That I see. So we have what, about 50 people here? 40? 40?
Buttermilk.
Any questions while y'all joining the game? That's actually the most. Oh, I mean, otherwise you're going to have to look at me and I'm going to have to come up with something to talk about, and I don't really think this is okay, that one is disqualified. The Alexandre guy is disqualified. He works for Checkmark, not eligible.
Buttermilk.
But so the top three scores that will be, I think, presented. Keep track of the top three scores. So I do promise the T-shirt for the top three winners. Top three. All right. Is anybody joining us? I haven't joined yet. I'm kind of getting tired of. Last chance. It's amazing, right? It's like watching water flow or fire burn or another man working. Never gets old. Never gets old. And I've never worked in a farm, so maybe if you have worked in a farm or you're up in a farm, that does get old. All right, let's start. So 10 questions. 10 questions, right? Are you ready? No points are available. Okay, I get the idea. All right, five, two of you. So This one is for real. Okay, I see. At least some people with sense of humor. Okay. Okay. All right. So now, that is for real. Can you guys see? But there's some formatting statements. A lot of formatting statements. Not bad. Okay. So everybody understands why. Yeah. So there's a format string that wasn't really checked for size or for length, and so. All right. While opening, backslash, dot. Path traversal, right? If you don't check that whether this file name contains some directory traversal characters, you can be opening a file in a very different location from what you expect. All right. Number 5, Andre. I'm going to report you to the manager. Answers coming really quickly. Hey, do kids actually kids allowed to watch these cartoons today? Are they still like? Okay. I didn't know. I don't think my kids know who's who, really. All right. Andre, I'm glad you moved up on that one. I mean, that's up to 1,000 points. Just because there's SQL on the screen doesn't mean there's a SQL injection. Right. That's a tricky question, right? So obviously there's no SQL injection because there was a parameterized query, right? So you can't really hack it. There were bind statements binding variables to the query itself. Let's see who's on top. Who's on top? Okay, you don't have to tell me. You reveal yourself later. So, you know, we have these things that were submitted answers to the three big questions. What happens if the client is trying to thwart the attackers? So what happens is that if you try to kind of randomize it on the client, then the server won't really know what was the answer, you know, what was the order. Maybe I should have spent a little bit more time explaining it. However, looks like most of you got it, including the current leader. Which side, I guess? Who? I guess the answer is who. Watch that movie? Well, yeah, obviously, again, server needs to be validating correctness as well as timer, as we learned, because client JavaScript is exposed and can be easily changed by the attacker. So it's not secure. Just not. Talked about it, right? Is that like the standard question, right, at the end of every quiz? Like we talked about it in the beginning. So you can answer the same question multiple times, right? That's why you need to mark something already answered. Uh-oh. But that's a tight game. See how tight the game is? Wow. We'll see who was paying attention, who was paying attention to the topic. Yep. Nail biter. This is like, you know, like Game 7, the NBA finals. Or should I not talk about finals since you guys are kind of close to San Antonio here? Okay, that was it. Speak up. Well done. I actually, I don't remember who were the other two, but it's very likely that we're going to be here at LastCon. Very likely. Hasn't been signed or anything like that, but it's very likely. So we're going to have lots of T-shirts at LastCon. We'll get details from the gentleman in the back. And thank you for playing. Hopefully that was kind of fun. Again, we do this occasionally at like long conferences, and so provides a bit of a break. in a long chain of speakers, boring speakers. So, oh, here it is, right? New, right? Just making sure. All right, so here's the, can somebody take, yeah, and actually, you guys want to speak up? Who are the other three? You don't need our shirt. Okay. Well, you still disqualified too. We have. Okay. So the two. Okay. So thanks. All right. Let's go back to my presentation. That's it. That's the beginning. So let's talk about some of the Node.js points to remember. This actually is kind of more serious note. Things that we learned and things we knew going into this affair, and things that we learned after working with GameOfHacks for a bit. This is usually the first slide like variation of the slide is the first thing you learn when you start learning Node.js. And by the way, does everybody know what Node.js is? Server-side JavaScript. Right? You program your server-side app in JavaScript. You run it inside a JavaScript engine. A lot of JavaScript developers. It's kind of easy to develop lots of modules that do things for you. So very popular framework. But the thing to remember about the framework is that it's single-threaded framework. Well, actually, there's a single event thread that does event processing. Reminds me of Windows 3.1. Right? You have event thread, and then, well, at least in Node.js, you can sort of delegate long-running tasks to task handlers. But nevertheless, there's an event loop that runs, and it's actually quite prone to denial of service attacks, or at least something. Careless programming can make your application really unresponsive. So this architecture is done to increase responsiveness so that you have a quick event processing that delegates anything that's longer running to a special handler. But if you're not careful and you put some calculations in the event loop, you can really screw up the app. So to put it in in a more layman terms, you know, you have the single event processor, order processor. Then you have event handlers. You have multiple event handlers. The denial of service works like this. Everybody get this one? It's old. It's long. But actually, something very trivial, like calculating the sum of numbers, right? Can hang modern computer for seconds. And seconds, of course, are a long time in computing. Right? So I don't have a demo, but you can actually do it yourself. It's a trivial demo. And if you enter sufficiently a large number, you'll see a long hang. Another point to remember is that Node.js makes it very easy to search databases, especially databases like MongoDB, which are not NoSQL databases. So the way it works is that you can supply JSON object as a query. Right? There's no need to write SQL statements. There's no where clause. There's no group by, order by, sort, inner join, none of that nonsense. You supply a quick and simple JSON object to filter on, to search on. So traditionally, for example, authentication, user authentication can be done in a single statement like this. Find username is basically key value pairs, right? The first key is the user parameters would be the second username, right? And second password. That would come from the user, and so you try to match it to the same key value pair in the database. Now, the problem with it is that the MongoDB will interpret things that you supply to it literally, and so this $GT is has special meaning. It's interpreted as a greater than. So a page request like this will translate into search, into key value pair, username, empty string, password, empty string. But with the GT, and the special meaning that GT has in MongoDB, the search will be performed on any username that's greater than empty string, and any password that's greater than empty string, which typically will give you the first user in a database, which in most cases, the first user created, your administrator. Not always, but it works in a surprising number of DBs. So again, not validating input leads to the same type of exploit as a SQL injection, even though there's no SQL of any kind involved. So the potential workaround is to first find the name and then basically compare the encrypted passwords as supplied by the user to what's already in a database. Now, but that actually has a different vulnerability. It has a vulnerability to regex denial of service, because supplying something very long and something cryptic for the username will result in a very, very long search in the database. It will try to match regex. And regex is a very CPU-intensive operation, regex search. So since Node.js is highly sensitive to CPU-intensive ops, you can actually hang that type of authentication with a regex, carefully constructed regex string. So validating user input is very important. It really has to be tailored to the type of application you're doing. And so while with SQL injections, the traditional SQL injections, there are lots of different libraries already developed that validate the input, that clean the input. With NoSQL databases and JSON-based queries, the libraries are not there, or there are not that many of them. So you might have to dig deeper. Key takeaways. Gamification of application security works really well. Developers like games, right? I know most of us, many of us grew up playing computer games, right? Especially playing against each other. Works really well. So we actually used Game of Hacks as an internal tool to a bit, to some extent, and also encourage you to incorporate elements of game in your application security training. Right? And writing games and writing code in general. So the validation of input is key, and everybody, even I think experienced developers, make these mistakes by assuming something is safe, assuming something is cannot be hacked because you can't have SQL injection because there's no SQL. Well, you can do something similar. Okay? And approach really depends on the tool and the framework, that language and framework that you use. These are very specific frameworks, very specific tools. Do research them, as well as research their weaknesses before you start developing. I think that's it. About 30 minutes, which is what I've done.
About how many users do you get per day? How many active users?
On this, so we were getting about 50,000. I don't know if that's changed. About 50,000 a day. So it grew actually quite quickly. I think it kind of goes up and down with events that we post.
And it handles the load? It handles the load okay?
Yeah. Yeah. No CPU intensive tests in the event process. So there's it's off of checkmarks.com. I don't remember the URL. Blanking on it. Sorry. Thank you.
Have you ever thought of putting in capability for the user to put inputs in and see if they could, I guess, hack the code or fix it if it is an exploit? Something like
something interactive exploitation?
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea. So I wonder if that would require some sort of a execution engine to try to do it. But we haven't tried it. But interesting. Maybe that's the Game of Hacks 2.0, something like that. Okay. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it feeds off of database of questions and correct answers, and so it's not really specific to coding per se. It's not published, but if you're interested in using it for something else or expanding on it, let's talk. So we don't make any money out of it. So.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.